Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast in Australia. It's a really, really interesting week again around the world, isn't it? I mean, we're still in the middle of a pandemic, even though in some instances you wouldn't know it when we see so many people taking to the streets and being very passionate about what they believe is important and what needs to change in this world. And I'm not saying it doesn't need to change. Please don't think that for 1 second. I've been sort of one of the advocates for many, 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 many years that I think we all need to be treated equal, no matter what our colour is, what our religion is, what our beliefs are politically or whatever else. We are all equal. And it's nice to see now that the world is uniting in this, even though in some circles it may not be the correct procedure or the way that people like it and it's making them feel uncomfortable. But we know if we don't make people feel uncomfortable, particularly our politicians, nothing ever gets done. So I think in the light of that, the Simply Tarot card of the week this week I think is quite apt. It's the Five of Swords. Now, it's the card of losses. Now, losses can mean anything. It can mean loss of life, loss of money, loss of our independence, loss of our freedom, loss of anything. So losses covers a very wide cross-section. All is not lost. You still have three swords remaining in your hand out of five. So this is going to give you the upper hand. I'm not saying there hasn't been a battle. I'm not saying we're not still battling on. What I'm saying is you have the upper hand. You have the balance of power in your hand to be able to make changes or to work towards changes. Now, I think that that's a very important and a very apt card that can be applied to many areas of our lives, whether it's people sort of trying to get their voices heard about Black Lives Matter, whether it's you trying to get on top of your own health or trying to struggle through and understand what's the new normal in your life. There's many reasons why we all have the power within our hand to make our lives a better thing. We don't always have to just look at the losses or what we no longer have and feel sorry for ourselves and get locked up in that. I think it's time to sort of move past that and look at what we've got to salvage, what we can move forward with. Now, it's going to be a very, very busy couple of weeks astrologically. And first and foremost, I don't want to sort of say that we're not focusing on the pandemic anymore, but I think I've probably covered that in as many different ways as I possibly can, talking about the same planets week after week and how they're affecting us. That hasn't changed. We still have Pluto conjunct holding hands, Jupiter and Capricorn, which still rules, big business, governments, those sort of things, still holding hands and conjunct Saturn, the planet of discipline in Aquarius. So we're still seeing sort of governments around the world sort of trying to ignore their responsibility or trying to dampen things down and take our attention off things because they don't have the answers or they don't want to give us answers. Whatever the case may be, I think it's sort of a combination of everything, and maybe they're just human after all and don't have any answers. That could very well be the case, but they're not going to admit that to us. But what I'd like to focus on more is our Mercury retrograde that's coming up from the 18th of this month. So it's June 18 through to July 12. So it's nearly a month that we're going to have a Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury's the planet of communication, how we think, how we approach things, how we sort of see our role when it's anything to do with communication. It also rules our intellect, our ability to absorb and assimilate knowledge, how we process things, how we see things, how we voice our opinion. It also affects things like all of our devices, our computers, all our broadband systems, our telephone systems, anything that you can think of that is connected with communication. Back in the olden days, it used to affect things like the snail mail and the parcels being delivered. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. We still have parcels delivered today, probably even more so since the pandemic, where many of us are shopping online and sort of trying to avoid shopping centres and crowds. So we have to be aware if you're going to be ordering anything or having a conversation with someone or doing something online, number one, make sure that you've got all your securities in place. That's really important. But also double, triple check your addresses, your credit card details, your phone numbers, anything like that that you're going to be giving people, particularly from the June 18 through to July 12. Now, when we talk about Mercury going retrograde, it's like the planet is going sort of backwards. And it will appear to be going backwards in the solar system, but it also means that it's a time when we can become more introspective, where we can go inside ourselves and start to look at maybe what needs to change in our lives. And I hear you sort of sigh and say, haven't we already done that with the pandemic, and we were locked up and we couldn't go anywhere and we had to sit there and contemplate our navel and clean out the cupboards and reorganise our lives and rediscover things like jigsaw puzzles. Oh, I don't want to do that again. It's maybe not on the same scale, but this is more about an introverted look. It's about looking at where you are, who you are, where you're going, what you want, what can you change in your life. Now, Mercury at the moment is in Cancer. So it's very, very interesting because Mercury is quite a powerful, strong sort of planet. And we tend to think of the sign of Cancer as being soft, gentle, motherly, not really having a lot of strength. Well, please don't underestimate the sign of Cancer. There is a lot of strength in water. Just because water might be fluid and moving, it doesn't mean it isn't strong, and it doesn't mean it can't be destructive. It's just sort of more of a gentle approach. We don't see it coming. So that's literally how Mercury is working in Capricorn. Sometimes we don't see what is coming, or we don't hear it quite in that same strong way. It's a sort of a gentle, softly approach, and then whammo, all of a sudden we feel like we've been hit over the head with the baseball bat. So be very careful as we lead into this Mercury retrograde, listening to people that are the powers that be. What are they really trying to say? Now, I think this pandemic is a classic example of that. What are they really telling us? Yes, as they start to reopen and open up places that we haven't been able to go before, and they're saying, yes, it's safe on one hand, but don't forget your mask and don't forget to social distance and wash your hands regularly, take your hand sanitizer. Yet at the same time, numbers are going up. There's more and more infections. So it's almost like a contradictory sort of message. Yeah, go out and have fun and take your life back and become normal. But by the way, we're going to have the numbers are rising, and I know we sort of said we're not, when we all went into quarantine, that this was going to sort of squash this pandemic. So it's an interesting concept. So they're sort of softly, gently telling you everything's okay, trying to reassure you, but at the same time, they know that things aren't quite the way that they seem. So I think you've just got to use your own common sense here, your own judgment, and just sort of listen to what's being said, and then sort of find your own truth in the middle of all this. I think that's the secret. And it's, I haven't met a politician yet that doesn't lie. They all lie, no matter who they are. They're there to sort of tell you what they think you need to hear to make you feel happy. They only react when we react. When we say we've had enough, then they start to sit up and take notice. So we have to be very careful of that. Because at the moment, the world is running on emotion. Look, I'm not trying to underplay the amount of loss of life that we've had with, people dying connected with police incidences, whether they've been in custody or being arrested or just, minding their own business. And, for some reason or another, somebody's taken it in their head that they're going to straighten this person out, and quite often they've lost their life. And it's not just happening in the US of A, it's happening all around the world. And I'm sure your own local environments, you're hearing more and more things in your own local communities. And it's like, okay, we need to be mindful of the fact that, yes, we are emotional and we have a right to be emotional and upset about this. But we also need to make sure that we're sending the powers that be, our politicians and lawmakers, a very strong message that this is not just an emotional reaction. Yes, we are human. Yes, we have an emotional reaction. Yes, we feel terribly sorry for the families and the friends that have been affected by this, but we need to make our voice heard. So we need to make sure that we're clear and concise as well as our emotion, because otherwise the politicians are just going to be able to fob it off and say, oh, well, when everything settles down, once the emotion dies down, they'll all forget about these issues. Well, no, this time we're not going to forget about these issues as a collective around the world. We are going to make sure that our voices are heard. Now, as Mercury continues to go retrograde or go backwards, he will move out of the sign of Cancer and move more towards the sign of Gemini. Now, this is then where I think we can start to get some light bulb moments of how we handle the situation moving forward. There may be some unusual or different sort of suggestions, or people sort of going to lawmakers and sort of putting proposals on the table or ideas of how we can start to get some resolution to all the chaos that's in the world at the moment. And I'm particularly talking about the police and the deaths that are happening to innocent people, or people that may be not so innocent but shouldn't be paying for it with their life. We need to get solutions. The things that we've been doing to date are not working. They're barbaric and they're unacceptable. So we need to make sure that our voice and our groundswell is not lost in once the emotion subsides a little bit and we become numb to it, which is a little bit what we've done with the pandemic. We've almost become numb to it. The numbers are the numbers, and yes, they're skyrocketing and they're off the Richter scale, but, you know, it's like, oh, I've had overload. I can't deal with this anymore, so I'll just ignore it. I'll pretend it's not happening. Didn't really affect me personally, so I'll forget it's not happening. And this is the risk that we run with trying to stand up for our rights and trying to get the world a more equal place for every person on the planet. Everybody deserves to be paid the same amount of money for the same skill. Nobody should be paid less because of the colour of their skin or their sexual preference or their religious preference. We should be all equal when it comes to things like that. So, as I said, it's going to be a very, very interesting time as we move forward with this particular Mercury retrograde. Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year, but this one, I believe, is going to be probably our most powerful one for 2020, and probably the most powerful one we've had in many, many years. So be aware of that. You may find that you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable. There may even be some pockets there where you're not sleeping as well as what you were. You can't switch your mind off. They're the times that you go and find some sort of way to divert your mind, whether, you know, get up and have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, put a movie on, put some music on, do something different. Try and switch your mind off so that then you can relax and unwind and go to sleep. So this week, the candle of the week that I've chosen is the candle of patience. I just truly believe we all need to have a little bit more patience in the world at the moment. I don't think any of us is really practicing patience at the moment. We all think that we've been hard done by, that we've been the ones that have really suffered during this pandemic and all the things that have been going on in the world. And I think it's time now that we can have a little bit more patience and a little bit more kindness for people surrounding us and the people that we're dealing with, and just sort of try and take a deep breath and exhale and say, okay, now can I approach this situation in a more calm, more patient sort of manner? Then maybe we'll achieve more by having a little bit more patience and understanding. Look, I understand in these very difficult times we become more insecure, we become more short-tempered, we have less patience than we normally do, and it's a fear-driven thing. So I'm asking you to sort of practice a little bit of patience, and the reward for patience is more patience. So I think that's not a bad thing to be looking at this week. So this week I've made up the gift box set with patience, obviously, as one of the candles in this set. I've also still continuing to have my angel in the sky, and that's to sort of honour everybody that we've lost in whatever form, whether it's been through the pandemic, whether it's been at the hands of the police, or whether it's just people who have died because of illness or old age. Let's remember all our angels in the sky. And I've also put the candle of forgiveness in there, because I think along with patience, I think we also need to learn how to forgive people. We need to be able to say, okay, I forgive you. I mightn't have had enough patience and understanding, but now I'm trying to do that, and I'm going to hopefully try and forgive you the situations that have led to the crisis that we might be in. And I think it's time that we all start to be a little bit kinder, whether it's to our work colleagues, our family, our neighbours, or even the people just in the local grocery store. Let's show a little bit of kindness and compassion there. So we're going to take our first caller, which is Kiambria in Quincy in Florida. What a lovely part of the world. How can I help you this evening?
Yes, I just want a general reading.
A general reading. So you don't have a specific question you'd like me to answer for you, sweetie?
No, not right now.
Okay. All right. The first thing that they're sharing with me is that there's a number of endings, changes, and transformations happening in your life at the moment. So the month of June, I feel, is going to be quite significant in that there's three major things or three endings of things that are happening at the moment. So do you feel as if you're winding a few things up, things that you've been working on and now coming to a conclusion, that you're ready to sort of step into the newness of your life?
I didn't hear you.
Right. Well, that's what they're showing me, is that there's three areas of your life there that are changing for the better. And I think it's been very sort of difficult for you to be able to sort of understand what's sort of happening in your life, that, you know, there's been things that have been out of your control that now really need your attention to sort of give them one almighty push to say, right, I need this cleared up. I need this finished. I need to be able to put that into the past. I need it to be completed so that I can move forward in my life now with the remainder of 2020. Now, it's an interesting concept because they're showing me that maybe you haven't been taking as much care of your health as what I think you should have been. What have you been doing that needs attention?
Maybe a relationship.
Are you not getting enough rest? Are you not getting enough rest or something? They're just showing me that your health is sort of what I would term as a little bit below par, a little bit below where I'd like to see it.
What you mean by that?
Well, it's like sort of saying I'm tired. And, you know, when I'm tired, I'm still forcing myself to get up and do something. Instead of saying, okay, I'm tired, I'm going to sit down and have a rest for 10 minutes, you keep pushing yourself. So it's like I want to sort of say to you, you've got to be a little bit more aware of your health, because to me, they were sort of showing me your energy levels weren't right. I want to see you sort of be more aware of how you're feeling and what you're putting into your body, because the next 6 months are going to be very busy and you want to be able to sort of, you know, have the energy and the strength to make these things a reality that, you know, with your life moving forward. Has there been sort of thoughts of another job?
No, I don't have a job right now, so.
But are you looking for work? Are you thinking to going back to work?
Yes.
Yeah, because they're showing me a job and they're showing me it's not that far away, and it's like, I just want you to be ready for that. I want you to be well and ready and full of energy and full of enthusiasm and being able to be sort of ready to embrace what life has in store for you. But I think the next 6 months are going to be very, very busy. So we're going to take a call now from Sydney in Vancouver in Washington, USA. Are you there, Sydney?
Hi there. Yes, I'm here.
Do you have a question I can work with, please, Sydney?
Yeah, I always love anything that comes through from my spirit guides, and I did. Today marks 3 months since a very, very, very close loved one to me passed away.
Okay. First and foremost, they don't always come through in this very limited time that we've got here on the show, but I can assure you that anybody that we lose that passes away, I've never had anyone come through yet and tell me that they're not happy and contented on the other side, or they're in pain, or whatever the case may be, that the reasons why they left us. So please be rest assured that they are there. They are contented, you know, they're dealing with it themselves, that, you know, that they're no longer here on earth. And just keep feeling as if you've got a lot of changes coming up in the next few months. It's like you got ahead of the game, you did all your homework, and it was like you were sitting there waiting, twiddling your thumb, saying, well, what's next? I've done all my work, what's next? And it was like you didn't know what to do with yourself because you'd finished things ahead of time. I'm going to say to you, look, that's okay. Sometimes it's good to be ahead of everybody else and sort of, you know, have that little bit of luxury of time of not knowing where, you know, what's next, that, you know, we can just enjoy being in that moment. They're showing me two confusing things. They're showing me two confusing things, and I don't know how to marry them in together. One was a pink heart and the other one was a red car. Now, I didn't take it as you were going to buy a red car and you loved it. I didn't feel it was that. I felt they were two separate things. Now, this person that you lost, was there some connection with a red car around them?
Not red, but yellow.
Why am I seeing a red one?
He had a close friend with a red car, actually.
Okay. So are you two still in communication?
No, we are not. Yeah.
Is there a reason for that? Because I just sort of feel as if the heart and the red car
been some past
somehow
turmoil
together. From some past turmoil. Okay, so that makes sense now, because this message was coming through from the other side, a pink heart on one hand and the red car on the other hand. And it was like there was a distance between the two of them. And it was like I felt like I wanted to join them together. So that's your message. So you've got to sort that out as best you can. But that's your message coming through from your dear friend that left us not that long ago. He really wants you to do this. It's something he's asking for. I mean, you know, if you can't, you can't. But he's asking you to try, if that makes any sense. It's important to him.
Okay.
So there must, besides the fact that it's important to him, maybe that person that owns the red car is not dealing with this passing too well.
Okay.
You know, sometimes people don't sort of let other people know that they're not doing so well. But if you've got somebody that's feeling the same loss you are, there's sort of like you've got that point of connection. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know there's more to come to this, and I'm sure it will come to you. That's just, I've never had a message come through so peculiar like that, the heart and the car simultaneously, and yet I wanted to join them together, and that's why I couldn't sort of understand what they were trying to say. But you know, that's the main thing. Also, I sort of feel in the next 6 months, there's also a lot of changes for you from about September. So September seems to be almost like your 2020 starting then. It's like up until then, it's been 2 steps forward, 3 back, 4 forward, 3 back. You know, you haven't really been able to get any traction for this year. But from September, you will be able to. And partly that could be too because you had that tragedy that would have knocked the stuffing out of you a bit. And, you know, you're sort of, you know, and that happening and then a pandemic all at the same time. I mean, that's a lot to get over or try and come to terms with or find some sort of sense of normality out of all this, some sort of direction forward. So please don't be too hard on yourself if there's still some not so great days. Just go with it. Do you know what I mean? I think the best thing you can do is take it minute by minute, not even day by day, and just allow yourself to be in the moment. It is okay to be sad. And, you know, grief is a very personal thing that there's no bus timetable for when we can say we're comfortable with it. You know, some people never get comfortable with it. Some people find a way of dealing with it or coping with it or their own way with it very quickly. So don't sort of try and measure yourself against anyone else. Own it and be comfortable with it and go forward. But know that that person is around you all the time. And it keeps showing me this beautiful big bunch of flowers. Now, I think that's to cheer you up. I feel that's to sort of try and make you happy. To say, look, here's a bunch of flowers, you know, this will brighten your day. So I use that as anytime I'm really feeling sad, think of a bright bunch of flowers and have a smile. That's what he'd like you to do, you know, like to do that is his way of helping you cope with things. But I do feel the remainder of, you know, once we get to September, then the remainder of 2020 for you is a lot more pleasant, a lot easier than what it was. Why am I getting a question mark around where you're living? Are you thinking of moving?
No, I think my mom's always talking about leaving, but I actually love the place that I live, but I just completely did a revamp on my room. I completely took it apart and put it back together, all new.
Okay, good. But I wouldn't take too much notice of Mum talking about leaving. I think that's just something that keeps her entertained.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see her I don't see her saying, right, that's it, we're moving. Do you know what I mean? I just keep seeing these question marks. but it's good that you revamped your room and sort of made it feel fresh and new. I think that was therapeutic for you too. It was sort of like you did thinking while you were doing that, and it sort of mightn't be consciously thinking, but a lot of things got sort of sorted out and put away and let go of, and it was sort of like a soul-searching, therapeutic, positive time all at the same time, which is good. There's more study to come around you. I don't know whether you're planning any at the moment, but they're certainly showing me books, probably more for 2021 than it is 2020, but there's certainly some massively big changes coming up around you, and you seem to feel very excited moving forward, particularly from September. It's like I get my mojo back. I know exactly where I'm going, what I want, what I aim to achieve in the next few years, and that's good. I feel very comfortable with that. But just know that you're protected, you're loved, and you'll get some random sort of messages. They won't always be like, I definitely know that's a message. It could be just some words in a song and they keep going round and round in your head all day. If that's the case, then look at it. Try and understand what that means, because you'll get lots of different random type of messages coming from your spirit guides. Anyway, that's where we're going to leave it, Sydney. So it's been great to work with everybody again on the show. I hope you have an absolutely sensational week wherever you are in this planet of ours, and please try and be kind to each other and just be aware of your communication as we move into this Mercury retrograde starting on the 18th, but we're starting to feel the effects of Mercury now. Just make sure that you fully understand and everybody else fully understands what you're trying to say, and double check with them that they understand what you're saying, so that we can hopefully minimise miscommunication during this nearly month of Mercury retrograde, and that we get some peace and some understanding. And let's hope we get some answers in the world that everybody is starting to be happy with. Wouldn't it be amazing if we got a breakthrough with a treatment for COVID-19? Fingers crossed, anything's possible with a Mercury retrograde. This is the time when we can get some amazing breakthroughs medically. And it may be something as plain as the nose on their face that's been there all the time, and then all of a sudden they find a different way of applying a drug that may very well be the answer, or one of the answers, towards minimising the spread of COVID-19. So until next week, bye for now and have a great week. Bye for now.